Good evening, everybody. We're going to get going shortly. I just want to do a sound check, make sure you can hear me. Can you raise your hand, please, in the on the panel there, if you can hear me? Okay, thank you. For those of you who might be jumping on board on our YouTube live stream, hello to you. Unfortunately, I can't see the chat on YouTube. So if you want to be able to engage in the webinar and chat, then what I suggest you do is just come along to acy.com, education webinars, just register for the webinar, and then you'll be able to participate and chat with the rest of us in the webinar, okay? Other than that, if you don't want to do that, just enjoy the stream on YouTube. Thank you. All right, we're going to be getting going very shortly. I'm just setting up, and we'll get going at 8 o'clock Sydney time. Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Thanks very much for attending. Just before we move along, if you could read through the risk disclaimer, that would be great. Now, over the last, I think now I'm just counting up, this is the 5th webinar. Since we finished the beginning webinar series, we've had 5 straight webinars of live market analysis. I've been using the tools and tricks that I've been teaching in the webinar series. And this is the last live market analysis webinar before we start the rerun of the webinar series. That's going to start on Tuesday, 8 o'clock Sydney time. Tuesday the 2nd of November. All right, so moving along, if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at ACY Securities. And a full-time Forex trader. Been trading the market now for more than 15 years and educating clients for more than 10. If you want to contact me, you can get me at duncan.cooper@acy.com. And if you want to connect with me on the website at acy.com, go to the Market News tab. You'll see my analysis there. If you go to the YouTube channel for ACY Securities Australia, you'll see my video analysis there as well. And you can connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. Now, just a word of warning, hopefully tonight's webinar will go without a hitch, but I can see outside of my window, there's a thunderstorm heading towards me. And hopefully it's not going to affect the delivery tonight. But if I suddenly go dark, probably had a lightning flash and the power's got disconnected or something. So I might have to reconnect. But those are things out of my control. So just a bit of a warning ahead of time, just in case something amiss happens. All right, so next week, next Tuesday starting, there's a few more topics being added in to the beginner webinar series. So the first topic next week, Tuesday, will be technical analysis basics. That's about basic charting, candlestick patterns, the most common ones that traders use. I'll be going through those. And then on Thursday, I'm going to go through trade orders and execution. I'm going to go into the platform and show you the orders that you could be using, how you place them, give you a full understanding of that. Next Wednesday, in between those 2 education webinars, we'll be doing a live market analysis. Okay, so tonight is a live market analysis. If you haven't been with me before, then my charts will look a little bit different. So let me get to my charts. Here we go. For some reason, I can shut them down. All right, so my 15-minute charts, well, all my time frames on my charts look different to yours if you just downloaded them from the ACY Securities website. So if you want my charts, indicators, and layouts, then I'm going to give you a link that you can download from. and you can do that at your leisure. All right, there's the link. I just put it into the chat for everybody. So you can you download that link, download a file. That file looks like this one on my desktop. Just double click on it. It's a RAR file. So if you don't have WinRAR software, you need to download it. You should be able to download that for free. Inside the file, there are folders that need to be moved to the MT4 platform. There's a video here that you can play and watch. I'll just show you how to do it. It just takes 2 minutes. It's real simple. Then reopen up your platform and you'll have my configuration. So with my chart layout, it doesn't delete anything you've already got. It just adds in. So in the templates drop down, you'll get my templates of indices, mega trend, and pivot points, daylight saving and pivot points. Along the toolbar, it adds in a couple of extra buttons that I use. And down here in the profile section, my 4 profiles, 12 pairs daylight saving, indices, and megatrend. They all will be in there as well. Doesn't delete anything you've already put in there yourself. Tonight I'm using 12 pairs daylight saving because in the Northern Hemisphere they're in daylight saving and these charts are pre-configured to accommodate that, okay? All right, enough of that. You should be able to download that and configure that without too much difficulty so you can follow along with what I'm doing in the webinars. All right, so if you've been following along over the last 4 webinars, we're into the 5th one on technical analysis, live market analysis. I've been setting my charts up and try to have a continuous analysis theme from one webinar to the next to see what's been going on relative to what I've been talking about. So let's have a look. One of the biggest themes has been on the dollar yen. Just going to the day chart. Well, let's go to the monthly chart first. We've been failing up here at major resistance, monthly resistance, and weekly resistance. And dropping to the weekly chart, those levels are at 114.20, 114.54, and 114.72. And over the course of the last 4 webinars, I've been showing you how you could have applied a couple of trades through the analysis techniques I've been teaching in the webinars. And I've actually got 2 short trades at break even as price has been moving down, okay? And long term at the moment, I have a couple of targets long term to move down to monthly support here or a deeper move down to monthly support here at the moment. Now, bear in mind this is all counter trend at the moment because the weekly trend is up. Yes, we had a negative week last week. And trend on the daily is just starting to turn down, putting in a lower top. Hasn't quite broken below, but significantly broken below that support low there just yet, but hopefully it does. MACD's crossed down. So on the daily, we're starting to see some negativity. And I did have a fib drawn from last week's high to low. And we came up to weekly resistance in the 62% fib at 114.20. And there was a nice opportunity to sell in there yesterday. And if we just go back in time for those that may have not seen that yesterday, there was an opportunity to trade a trend line break early in the Asian session at weekly resistance and the 62% fib level, trend line break, and it's been moving down nicely. Now in yesterday's webinar, that was happening around about here. We were probably 1, 2, 3, around about here. I said in the next trading day, which is today, look for the market maybe to get resistance at the central pivot. Here's the central pivot, and that might offer you another opportunity to sell and trade down. So if you listen to what I said, then it came to fruition. Price moved below the central pivot today and became resistance, and there's a trend line break and it's been moving down. Yes, it's had a bounce back up, but there was a nice opportunity there for getting in. You know, it's kind of moved down at least 20 pips, depending on where you may have gotten in on the break of the trend line. But there has been an opportunity now. If it does come back up to the central pivot, it might offer you another opportunity to trade down from a trend line break. But there was one there early in the day. But overall, general trend direction, in my mind anyway, is to we'll be trading down from that major reversal that's starting to happen at monthly, weekly resistance. The day chart trend is just starting to turn down. So maybe that will be the continued trend over the coming couple of weeks or more. Time will tell. Most immediate bias is to the downside. All right, I'm just going to go to the pound dollar before I head over to the left-hand side and move through the rest of the charts. Now, earlier, just after the London Open, I saw price coming up here. And just to show you what I was thinking, I put a trade on here and I just set it up with a 15-point risk. I saw some failure here at the pivot, R1. We'll get to the higher time frames in a minute, but just discussing what I'm seeing on this time frame. The day trend has become, in all probability, negative. And what I was doing was drawing a fib from yesterday's high to the low of yesterday. And I saw that we had a 79% level here. I saw there was a pivot a little bit further above. And I saw it coming up and I was just thinking, well, this is a low risk opportunity if we can't take out the high yesterday. It's just moving back up within the range of yesterday before it starts to move back down. So I saw it started to hold at the pivot here. So I clicked in, put my stop just above the high yesterday. It's 15 pip risk. Now I can just move that down to break even. And I've got a free look to see as to whether this will move down to today's projected low. And I can manage a trade as it starts to move down. Now, obviously, we can't go back in time to take that trade, but I just wanted to show you how I was looking at the market. The other thing I was looking at and why I thought this might hold here is there was some intraday resistance here yesterday. See that? On those 15-minute tops. So I was eyeballing that. And that's really where price got back to today. So yesterday, intraday resistance was here. And we really just came back up just short for a sniff of that area. So that was another thing that I was watching and thinking, you know, from my experience, often price will come back to an intraday area from yesterday where it failed and then start to move back down. All right, so I just wanted to show you that example that you could have executed in the style. At the moment, it's not doing too much. And from natural fact, before we go through any more chart analysis, I just want to make you aware of going to Forex Factory. And there's a big news item for the euro today, 9:45 p.m. monetary policy statement, interest rate decision, and a press conference. So from 9:45 probably through to 11 o'clock, these are my times, Queensland time, the market, certainly for the euro, will be very volatile. So I wouldn't be trading the euro crosses before then. And we might see the likes of the pound dollar being a little bit sideways, or at least trading within the range of yesterday, which we're seeing at the moment. All right, so getting back to the charts. So I can see this is just a little bit range bound. I've been able to get a trade in on the board at break even, and maybe this might move down over the course of the day. Now, from a higher time frame perspective, I'm looking at this as moving down to a lower bottom, just rolling back up on the weekly chart, and it's failing at the 79% level. I've drawn in a resistance top here that was last week's high. We tried to test on Tuesday, and we've been moving down since then. And then I've actually got 3 trades open, and at break even, I've been showing some trade examples through the course of the webinars of how you could have been initiating some trades. And I've managed to actually have 3 trades there at break even, and I'm expecting we've got a lower top in place now on the daily, move to a lower bottom. So I'm seeing that on the weekly chart, we've moved down. This is a rally against the weekly chart downtrend. Day chart trend has turned down to a lower top, lower bottom. I'm expecting that this will move downwards to test support, may even move through to come down to 127 extension. Okay, so fortunately, if you've been watching me along with me, you may have been able to get into a position high up near the 79% fib level, waiting for this to move down the range, hopefully. So the day chart trend is down. The 4-hour trend structure here is actually moved up to a higher bottom, higher top scenario at the moment, but that doesn't mean that the higher time frame trends are changing. That's just intraday noise, I think, at the moment. And the 1-hour chart here is a little bit on the upside as well. It's been moving up within the range of yesterday, but it's rejected close to the high yesterday. That's that little resistance area showed you before on the 15-minute chart. I'm expecting, in all probability, we'll have another day down by the end of the day. Okay, so I'm giving you my directional bias there. I'm not seeing an opportunity just to jump in right now, no trigger, but for sure over the coming days, that day chart trend is now down in line with the weekly, which looks like it's topping out on the weekly. And I think your bias should be to get yourself to the short side as price starts to move down that day chart downtrend. All right, going to move to the Aussie Yen. Going to move it to the monthly at the moment. And this isn't an uptrend on the monthly, but we're holding, testing, and maybe failing at resistance monthly top here, which is at 85.80. Then there's a weekly area of resistance here that we're just fractionally above at 85.18, I think it is. And last week we traded above and rejected. This week we've been trading above and starting to reject once more. So it's a very strong area of resistance, but the monthly and weekly trends notably are up. But on the daily, like these almost crossing down, we had a negative candle retesting monthly resistance once more. If we have a day down, and especially if we break this low here, we're going to have a lower top, lower bottom scenario. So it's just starting to look negative on the daily at key resistance. And I was saying yesterday that this big strong break of an upward move here, we could well trade back down to the start of that break on the move up. Okay, that often occurs. So this could well move back down to about the 81.30 level. 4-hour chart, it's just still getting support on that weekly level of what I put it in as resistance, but it's acting as support or resistance at the moment. And in this case, on the 4-hour, it is acting as short-term support at 85.18. So, really to start to engage, if you didn't look to sell up here, yesterday I had a fib drawn in from below to high, and I actually initiated a trade down from resistance at 85.80 when it failed at the 79% level. So that was a great area to trade down from. You can see the order here, or the open position. Took it at 85.80 when it failed there, and it's been moving down, and it's gotten a little bit choppy. So up here was great area to take a trade to the downside in anticipation that maybe this weekly level would break, but it's been holding as support short term on the 1-hour chart once, twice, 3, 4 times. Now, it might just be a question of price just needs a bit more time before it breaks down through. But the trade that I initiated yesterday is at break even, so I'm just waiting to see if can support break, and then can we move down the range like I was showing you. So at the moment, let's move it to the 15. Not seeing a great opportunity for a trend line break or anything at the moment. What I'm just going to do is just move back to the 4-hour and take that range off, the fib tool off the range. Move back down to the 15. Just trying to find the high of yesterday. Okay, I'm just going to draw a fib from the high yesterday down to its lowest point. Just want to see where the fibs line up. Now, if it does come back up to 85.80, that again would be a great level to sell at, because it was yesterday. Might not get there. Might come up to the 62. It's very close to a pivot point there. So if it does push further up, that may be an area that price may hold at, fail. Can you see a trend line break to the downside there? That would be great. Or simply major resistance up here would be a great area to trade down from. And just above is the 85.83. Okay, don't know whether you can hear the thunder, but I can hear it outside. Don't know whether you can hear it on my mic. Hopefully it's not going to disturb the webinar, but we'll see. All right, so that's my thoughts on the Aussie Yen. I'd like to see, if I wanted to initiate a trade, I would want to be initiating fairly further up the chart. At the moment, I don't want to be trading too close to trading into support down here at 85.18. On the Aussie, all right, this was a look yesterday. I had this fib draw on the 4-hour chart and looked for a failure up here at the 79% level. I was able to initiate a trade down from that level. We can have a look at that in a moment. But just going to the high time frames, to the daily, I've got some areas of resistance drawn in. This monthly top of last month at 74.78, currently acting as support, that top. There's an area through here at around about 75.03. I've got drawn in, and there's a weekly support low that's broken, now acting as resistance at 75.32. So I've got those three lines drawn in. Now, this is the major monthly move down. And this is just a rally against that major monthly move down. Yes, the day chart trend is up, but it's been holding here nearly for the best part of 1.5 weeks in this area of resistance. Is this the area where the market's topping at to start its next leg down within the monthly downtrend? I'm taking to the monthly chart just to show you. Got a lower top moving to a lower, well, there's a minor low in here, so I'm classing that as a lower top, lower bottom, and this is just rallying up. So on the day chart, I'm just contemplating that this is an area where the market might be putting in a lower top again on the monthly, but at the moment it's really not showing a very strong hand because it's not breaking down. On the 4-hour, I had a fib drawn from this high to low across that range and did fail up at the 75.32 weekly resistance. If you were watching that, you could have traded down from the 79% fib. You could have the trade at break even. I did that yesterday. Talked about that in the webinar yesterday. And on the 1 hour at the moment, so it failed up here. That's where I trade. Well, it failed up here when I traded down, and it's come back up to retest the area. And it's moved back down. It's going back up for another bounce. Is this a lower top for another move down that way? So really need to redraw the fib over these smaller ranges. From that high to the lower low. And then when we move it down to the 15-minute chart, you can see that we've rallied up to the 79. I mean, you could have traded at the 79% level, put your stop above the high, or you could have been watching for a trend line break. We have had a trend line break, and a MACD cross from the failure up here at 79% level. So you could maybe thinking, okay, I want to sell, just put your stop above that high there. And then you're watching to see where the price can move down. At the moment, though, I'm not entirely sure whether, let me just take this off and just clean up the chart. At the moment, it's just getting support from this top on the daily, and it's getting resistance up here at the weekly old support low over here. So it's just bound in between the area. Now, it may break above or it may break back below. I'm going with the sell side because the monthly trend is down, and I'm looking at that as a lower top starting to form, but it may want to move further up. So you always need to be careful, get your trades to break even as soon as you can, because the day trend is still up, but yes, the monthly trend is down. So monthly trend would dominate above the day chart trend, but this day chart trend could still continue up, so you need to manage your trades effectively. All right, so that's my range that I'm looking at. We've had a bit of a trend line break failure once we hit the 79% level. All right, getting into the Euro Yen daily chart. I'm going to the weekly chart. It's been failing up here at resistance level here and here. There's a resistance area between 134.12 and 133.12. Very negative candle last week. We're having a negative candle this week. Now, the actual weekly trend is up, but it's rejecting at resistance. And daily's put a minor lower top in here. At the moment, I'm anticipating that this will probably move back to this level of support here, 130.73. Then it's a question of, can that hold? If it holds, you're trading back up to retest 133.12. If this doesn't hold, then you're trading down to 127.90. So the day MACD's crossed down, there is a lower top forming here, and we move through this minor bottom as well. So I'm looking at it as a minor downtrend starting to form. 4-hour chart trend is down. Really, I'd like to trade the top of a rally. So at the moment, I would be having a fib drawn from high to low and watching to see that rally back up. High to low there in the 15, watching to see if it can rally back up. Now, it has actually, through yesterday, rallied back up to the 62, held there once, twice, 3 times. So in actual fact, once you break it down to lower time frame price structure, you can see it's already done a rally. So maybe this is just going to continue down in the short term. So what you might need to do is keep dragging your fib tool down if it keeps making fresh lows. All right, but back to the 15. You could rewatch the 62% level at the moment, see what price does there, because intraday yesterday, it held through here. So just drawing that across. Rewatch that level today if it comes back up, because that could hold as good strong intraday resistance to trade down from on a trend line break. Okay, now I might not get back up to that level. It's already had resistance at the central pivot in the figure and been moving down. So that could be the high of the day there. But then again, it could come up and revisit. There's New York open. So this area here is the high of New York trading yesterday. So we could just come back up to the highs of New York today, hold and turn back down. So I'll be watching that area. But overall, day chart trend is now down. So my bias is to be trading down. With the caveat as well, don't forget about the Euro news coming out. I wouldn't be doing anything till past the Euro news, which I said was coming out at my time, 9:45, and there's a speech coming out at 10:30. So until I get to 11 o'clock Queensland time tonight, I probably wouldn't look to initiate a trade on the Euro Yen or Eurodollar. But that's my analysis. Eurodollar. Let's go to the weekly chart. And I'll just get rid of a line at the moment. So over the last 4 sessions, we've been discussing price failing at this weekly level of broken support at 116.64. That's truly holding, and we're moving back down. We're a little bit below this weekly level of support at 16.03. We're trading at 115.85, so we're below that. And the next level of support is down here at 115.24. So weekly trend is really just moving down, rolling, putting in another lower top at now broken support, becoming new resistance. And whilst the daily is just holding an uptrend, I don't know how long it's going to hold that, because we've put in this resistance top area at weekly resistance. All right, to the 4-hour chart, you can see it's very consolidatory. Support down the 4-hour is quite clearly there. And it's not doing much because it's waiting for the market news release today. So this will, depending what the news release is, if it just goes with the trend, it's going to break through this area. But until then, I would be holding my ground and waiting till the news is finished. So sometimes you just have to be patient. You might have to wait a day for price action to settle down and give you a setup. So at the moment, if I readjust things, that is weekly level of support or resistance at 16.03, but truly you can see that the market is trading within this range here. All right. So if it does come back up to the top of the range after the news, that would be a great area to maybe look to initiate a trade. If it starts to fail there, you can see we've been in a range through here. And through the webinars, we've identified an opportunity to sell here, here, and here. Then it's moved down. I actually identified an opportunity to sell there. I think on Tuesday's webinar, I gave you a good level and it worked. Came back up. And now we're in a new range. So the base of the first range is becoming the resistance top for the second range. Okay, and the bottom of this range is getting support from the old base of this range here, which is sitting on the top of this old range here. So hopefully you can see all these ranges, how the market's operating within ranges. Lou, for me, you got a question? All right, so yes, I did on the Aussie dollar draw it across a lower time frame, and I did it on the pound dollar as well. What I was doing there, so your question is, why am I drawing the fib tool on the lower time frames? Should I not be drawing it across the pullbacks on the longer term trends time frames before resumption? Well, yes, normally I would do it on the weekly, daily, and 4-hour ranges, but sometimes I will also draw across just the high to low of the trading day before. All right. And I think in the example, the last example I was using was the Aussie dollar. This is, well, that was the high of yesterday, but this is a couple of pips short of that. It came up to there and then moved down to the low of today. So that's the last range on the chart. And whilst I drew it on the 15, we'll go to the 4-hour. It actually is drawn from the last 4-hour top to the last lower bottom on the 4-hour chart. So I just knew that, and I just drew it on the 15-minute chart. So sorry about the confusion there. So just with my experience, I already knew that was the 4-hour top. I already knew that was the 4-hour bottom. I just drew it on my 15-minute chart. All right, so if I drew it across on the 4-hour, it would be from that top to that top. And then when we get to the 15-minute chart, it is the range that I drew it across. But I wasn't referencing the 4-hour chart when I was talking about it. Okay, so hopefully that clears it up for you. But yes, you're quite right. General terms, I'm drawing across the ranges that I'm seeing on the 4-hour or the daily or the weekly. You're quite correct. All right, so that is across the 4-hour range. I just didn't really commentate on that. All right, what pair was looking at? The Eurodollar. And I think I was talking about that on the Euro Yen. And yes, I am drawing across the 4-hour range down the Euro Yen. So I was referencing that there. But again, that is the high to low of yesterday. All right, let's get back to the Eurodollar. So nothing to do before the news comes out. You know, if you break out of this consolidation range, you know, let me draw them in for you. There was a consolidation range here. Then we had a new one formed on top of the old one. Now we have a new one forming underneath the old one, which is in the same position as this one. And we may well move down and through, and we could then be trading in this range, which is this old consolidation range. So I would really encourage everybody, spend your time getting to understand that within the trends of the market, when you're moving down to the 4-hour chart often, it's in these blocks of ranges. As you can see there, it's very regimented. Traders just moving between support and resistance before it breaks into the next range. It's in support and resistance range here, breaks back underneath, and we may well see the same occurrence if we break below support there. All right. All right, I might actually leave that on and we can revisit that next week. I can stop deleting my bits and pieces. Okay, let's get into the pound yen. Now, to the monthly chart first of all. We were trading above here a couple of days ago, but I wasn't happy to be a buyer above that level because it's new air that the market's trading into, and it's proven to be an area that the market's not comfortable with. So I've got two lines drawn in here. Go to the weekly chart. In fact, I've got 3 lines drawn. Let me just get rid of one, which is based on my 4-hour chart. Back to the weekly. Got a weekly high here at 156.07.2, and the monthly top here at 156.59, and we traded above last week, just managed to close on top of weekly support or that weekly high, but we rejected above in the monthly area of resistance. We traded back above, but we've rejected again this week. And then the day chart is going to be showing you that we're starting to form a downtrend, lower top, lower bottom scenario in that area. Now, it's a bit awkward because it's holding back below monthly resistance, but it's holding above the weekly top, which is acting as support. So potentially, yes, the MACD's crossed down. We have a lower top, lower bottom, but we're stuck in between monthly resistance and weekly support. I'd be a lot happier if this broke back below. Okay, if it broke back below, this is the 4-hour chart now. If it can break back below, get a clear break underneath 156.07, and 156.07 becomes new resistance as we rally back up. So, you know, 4-hour range, if we can move down, create a 4-hour down range, rally back up, draw a fib. Does that line up with a 62.79% retracement area? And then let me draw a fib in so you get the full picture. You know, can we move down? Draw a fib in, and then hopefully as price moves back up, the 62% lines up with the then becoming weekly resistance, and that would be an area to watch to trade down from. So where it sits right now doesn't interest me whatsoever. It's stuck between those levels of support and resistance, but the day chart trend is down, so I'd like to see a breakdown and then a rally back up. All right, so sometimes I'm not looking to trade a pair because I don't like it right now, but I'm just planning ahead over the next few days. Pound dollar. I've already covered this. I just want to go to the 4-hour chart. So the range that I drew the fib across was from that lower top on the 4-hour down to the final lower point. I know I was just showing the 15-minute chart before. Then back to the 15. There's the 79% area and the pivot that I look to initiate a trade down from. And price action is continuing negatively down within that range. All right. New Zealand yen. This is just on my watch list at the moment, monthly chart. There's a lot of resistance up here that the market hasn't quite gotten to. This line here is a weekly level. There's a couple of monthly levels up there. But on the weekly chart, if you look over to the left, sometimes you need to squash your chart in to find it. There's a weekly top here, and then there's a couple of monthly levels of drawn in. And they're 83.90, 83.37, 82.73. Now, I'm just watching this pair at the moment. Really hasn't stalled yet at resistance. It got short of resistance. I always like it when price gets to a resistance level, then changes trend rather than just stopping in the middle of nowhere. So this has stopped just a little bit in the middle of nowhere, but it is starting to put in a lower top. MACD may be curling down. It's not crossed yet. So if we start to trade back below the low here, that's just starting to put in a daily chart downtrend. I've got to be cautious this weekly top if you're trading down. So at the moment, I'm just watching that to see if it starts to look like I want to be able to trade it. It's just in the middle of no man's land for me personally. New Zealand dollar. This just keeps moving down, moving back up, moving down, moving back up, and rotating above and below 71.70. Now, where we're getting that level from is last month's high here. This is the monthly downtrend, fib drawn across that range, and we've rallied back up, failed at the 79% level. I'm anticipating this will move down within the trend of the Fibonacci tool over time. At the moment, I'm just going to go up one time frame. In fact, I've got 2 time frames. There's your monthly chart. There's the lower top, lower bottom. So you've got a full picture of how I've drawn the fib tool. And we're moving back up. Maybe are we going to be putting in a lower top at the 79% retracement level? Weekly trend at the moment is up, higher top, higher bottom, but this is just an overall retracement against the monthly trend. And you can see last week we rejected last month's high. That's why I've got that line drawn in. We hit the 79% level, rejected the monthly high. Daily is still, well, I was going to say it's holding to an uptrend. It's got a higher bottom. It's trying to put in a lower top. And we just continually try to trade above the monthly top of last month. But see how the last, not today, but yesterday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, last 5 trading days have all closed below 71.70. Yes, we keep trading above by, I don't know, 20, 30 pips, but we keep closing below. So for me, I'm expecting or hoping as a trader that this will start to break down to the downside in line with my Fibonacci tool, how I've got it drawn. So for our chart, you can see it's very sideways. And you could draw in the, maybe the boundaries of, from that high, 71.88. And maybe this low here, because that low is touching that low, and that's a false break of that low. So that's at 71.31. And what we're then able to do is have a clear range that the market's trading in. 71.31. All right. So if we can get a clear break of 71.31, that would be great. That would start to confirm that we are having some downside pressure and the trend quite clearly turning to the downside on the daily chart. Now, at the moment on the 1 hour chart, not telling you too much, ever so slight uptrend. Well, it was an uptrend, but this last 1 hour candle just broken below the lower bottom and just traded back into the 71.70 level of support or resistance from the monthly high. So I've got a trade open here, a sell at the 71.70 level. And it just keeps moving below and above, and just monitoring. If this went too far up, I haven't set a stop yet because it's not doing anything, but really should have a stop set. And this is just for demonstration purposes in the demo account I use for webinars. So initiating a sell at the 71.70 level, really should have my stop set, and probably need to give it 30 pips of room. So I've actually got a trade on at 71.717, so that should really reset at 0.17. Just modify, and we can see that it's just above all the tops that the market's been forming. And I hadn't set a stop because I knew this thing's doing nothing at the moment. It probably won't do anything until the euro has its news coming out tonight, and then that might liven things up because this thing has barely got a heartbeat at the moment. It's just waiting for its next injection of news, positive into the market to determine, is it moving up or is it moving down? All right, so that 71.70 level is the key level that the market is trying to keeps closing below on the daily. That's why I think it's the sell side with a 20 or 30 pip stop trading that level. It's a great risk reward opportunity because if you move it back to the daily, you're trading from that level back down to long-term support. That's 360 pips away. So with a 30 pip stop, that is 1 to 12 risk reward. That's great. That's how you can set up these great risk reward trades. If you have a 20 pip stop, it's going to be even better. It doesn't matter if you get stopped out a couple of times. You just have to be prepared to lose a couple of times for the anticipation that you might get a large move down over the course of time. All right, so keep watching that 71.70 level. Clear break of the 71, let's call it 30, 71.30. Clear break of that level is going to start to reconfirm that a downtrend's forming there on that pair. All right. Okay, those are the pairs that I'm watching at the moment. Now, if you've got a pair that you'd like me to have a look at before we conclude, just type it in. If you've got any questions regarding anything, just type it in. I'll just wait and see if you want to talk to me. And while I'm waiting, I'm just going to go to the webinar page. Just for those who may be with us streaming on YouTube, just to give you an update. I can't answer your questions because I can't see your questions coming in. So sorry if you've been asking me questions, but come along to one of our webinars. Actually come into the room, webinar room, and you can ask questions. So this is tonight's webinar, but coming up next week, Tuesday, that's next Tuesday's webinar, the 2nd, Wednesdays on the 3rd, that's Forex market analysis, and then next Thursday, trade orders and execution. Okay. So those are webinars for next week, starting at 8 o'clock Sydney time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So come along. If you're on YouTube, just register and come along. Okay, everybody, I'm just double checking. Nobody's talking to me, so no questions are coming in. So I might call it an evening there. Just before I do, if you're trading tonight, just be aware of the news coming out. The big Euro news, 9:40 p.m. Queensland time. Then we've got the ECB press conference coming out at 10:30. So between 9:45 and 11, it's going to be volatile. So it's worth just watching the volatility. It's always exciting. But just be aware of where the volatile items of news are coming out for the day before you're thinking about taking a trade. All right, everybody. Thanks very much for your attention this week. Hopefully you've had some value from the levels that have been given you through my analysis. And I look forward to seeing you next week as we start a new run of the beginner webinar series starting on Tuesday. Okay, so thanks very much for your attention. If you're on YouTube, thanks very much for attending as well. Stay safe. Have a great evening. Look forward to seeing you next time.